Hello and welcome to the Dreaming and Doing podcast with me, Nicky Raby. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker, podcaster and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In my podcast, I talk about success, but not in a traditional sense. I have conversations with those who have built a business from something they love or who have made a pivot in their career. Also those who have built a brand or a job that maybe didn't exist when they were at school and they found a way to monetize their skills, talents and expertise. I've spoken to loads of incredible people, coaches, designers, journalists, app creators, magazine editors, bloggers, content creators, authors, and all-round movers and shakers. I ask the questions that you want to know the answer to. So, how they started, about money, saying no, saying yes, pitching, presenting, putting yourself out there even though it terrifies you, standing out in a busy online world, growing, scaling and making your work for you and your circumstances. The show notes are always at nickyraby.com/podcast and the conversation continues across social media, often on Instagram, my favourite platform, at Nicky Raby. Thanks so much for listening. It's great to have you with us. In today's episode, I'm talking to Natalia Sanders, who runs ClearDesk VA, a virtual assistant business with the aim of helping busy business owners to achieve a clear desk, clear mind by the end of the working week. Natalia is a mum of 2 young daughters and works flexibly around her family, which sometimes means 4 days at her desk around the childcare routine, and it sometimes means 5 a.m. before they wake or 8 p.m. once they're finally in bed. I hear you, Natalia. She was an English teacher for 10 years before starting her business, which she set up after her second daughter and doing some ad hoc freelance work for Mama Tribe. This feels a very poignant episode for me right now. I'm at that point, I think, having a second baby where I'm looking at what the future holds for me and my business. Where do I want to go? How do I want to build? Where do I see the next 1 to 5 years going, all being well? And one thing is for sure, I cannot do it alone. And hearing Natalia talking about outsourcing, delegating, working with somebody, bringing trust into your business has been really fascinating. And I know so many of my listeners are overwhelmed. They are burnt out. They are doubting which way to go. So I've asked some really conscious questions with Natalia, like how do you know that you're ready to outsource? How can you start to work with a VA or an assistant or get some sort of support to elevate and accelerate your career? So as always, we would love to know what you think. Come over to Instagram or any social media platform. I'm there. I'm on all of them. So tag us in your stories, share it with somebody that you know, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Here it is. Natalia, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Nikki. Thanks so much for having me.
I know you listen, which is always good and lovely. But
I do.
Tell me what you do and what your business is all about, and just a bit of background if people don't know you.
Okay, so I'm Natalia, and I run ClearDesk VA. So I'm a virtual assistant, and I live outside Bristol. With my husband and 2 small daughters, and I set up my business about 9 months ago now. After having my second daughter in the January, I started the business in the September, so she was 9 months. And basically, I offer virtual assistant support to busy business owners. So my aim is to help them achieve a clear desk and a clear mind by the end of their working week.
Happy days. So did you know that you always wanted to run your own business? How did it kind of come about?
Well, the easy answer to that is no way. No, I didn't. I grew up with my mum and stepdad, and my stepdad owned his own business. He's never worked for anybody but himself. So I think the one thing I was adamant as growing up was that I was never going to do that.
Because you see it, don't you? You see the behind the
totally
scenes
different.
It's not all fresh peonies.
Oh, absolutely not. But no, after I went to uni, where I studied English and drama, I did a PGCE and became a secondary school English teacher for 10 years. And then when I had my first daughter in 2016, I made that difficult decision not to go back to teaching, mainly because I just didn't feel that it was going to offer me the flexibility that I wanted. Obviously, I'd gone through that huge life event of becoming a mum, and then I just couldn't figure out how I would make it work, to be honest. So I didn't go back. And then when I had my second daughter in 2018 in January, and then after that, I started to feel that I was in the zone where I wanted to start using my brain, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes, I remember it well.
Yeah. So it was when I was on maternity leave the first time that my stepdad, he's always had his own retail business. He's retired now, but he started to sell online as well as in actual physical shops that he had in the Cotswolds and Worcestershire. But he's just not kind of technical minded. So when I was off with my first daughter on mat leave, he would ask me to help him out a little bit. So I started running his Instagram account for him, which sounds really easy, but I didn't even have my own Instagram account. So it really was like watch and learn sort of thing, watch what other people are doing. So I did that a little bit for him. And then he was paying somebody to manage his WordPress site where he'd sell items online. And like when mum would be looking after the baby, I'd be chatting to him. He'd have his laptop and he'd say, oh, could you just proofread this description of an item? Have I spelled anything wrong? You know, that kind of thing. And then from there, I just started playing with it, I guess. I thought, well, you could duplicate that. You don't have to write the whole thing, just change the title. Or you need an item number for that. That's why it won't let you save it. And that's how I kind of started doing anything, really, that wasn't teaching. Because apart from like a bar job at uni, that's all I'd ever known.
Yeah, and you might not go, oh, I've had 2 children who don't sleep, so let me just go and work in a grotty nightclub until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, or also like I'm still not sleeping because they don't sleep, so I'll just go and retrain.
Yes.
But the hardest thing I found actually when I felt like I wanted to start doing some work was, what on earth can I do? Because when I left teaching, everybody says that stock phrase, oh, you'll find it easy to get a job because teachers have so many transferable skills.
But it's like, but what is that job?
What does that look like? Like I don't know what transferable skills I've got. I'm thinking I can read, I can write, I can mark. You know, I just couldn't see, because I was sleep deprived probably. I couldn't see outside of what the things were.
Yeah.
So I started doing those bits for Ian, my stepdad, and then through Instagram, I started following Mama Tribe, run by Danny.
Yes.
And she lived in the same area, well, she still does, as where my stepdad had one of his shops, and they had a mutual connection. And my stepdad just mentioned that I was doing this Instagram and Facebook. It was by then for him. But I mean, very loosely, I'm not talking with any kind of strategy. Like he would send me a photo, these baskets had just come in, and I would post them, you know, just put them on there.
I love it. You're taking us right behind the scenes of business, entrepreneurial life.
Like 3 years ago. And then Danny advertised that she wanted some scouts to help her kind of, you know, spread the word of Mama Tribe. And I just really got the ethos behind it of women who'd become mums, who were running their own business from their kitchen table, you know, flexible working. All of those things suddenly came into my life, and I'd never heard of them. I didn't really know what they were, but I loved the sound of it.
And it's so funny. You like peep over and you're like, oh, there's a whole new world. It's like discovering Narnia for the first time. There are people out there making money on the internet.
Just mental. And especially because I'd been a teacher. Like if anyone's listening to this who's worked in the world of education, I guess like a lot of big industries, you're so caught up in it. Like my calendar is still September to August, and I think it always will be. Just things like that. So the fact that there were people out there who, like, Monday to Friday, 9 till 3, could walk into a coffee shop and nobody would think they were truanting. It still blows my mind a little bit.
Have to stand outside the head teacher's office for a while.
I was just indoctrinated for a long time. So I had Arabella, and then I'll never forget, there was one like June evening, we finally put them to bed and they were both asleep for a little bit. And I said to my husband, I want to start my own business. I want to do what all these people are doing that I really admire. And he said, great. And I thought he'd be like, what? But he didn't. He said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out.
Dancer.
Yeah, exactly. He just went, all right. What is she coming out with now?
Yeah, quite. Sleep deprivation can do weird things, can't it? Suddenly I do that dash into the living room and I'll pronounce something to Matt and he just looks at me like, okay, are we... this is serious, right? Okay, yeah. Good, lovely, nice.
Definitely. I might have just handed Chris a beer, so he just said yes. I don't know what happened. And then I just spent some time thinking, which sounds really boring and perhaps a bit airy-fairy, but I spent ages trying to be critical. So when I would teach reading at like GCSE and A-level, I'd always try and teach to look behind, try and find your own interpretation. And I was just paying attention to the Mama Tribe group, really, that I was a member of because I was helping Danny do bits. And everyone had these same kind of things that they were finding quite painful or annoying or frustrating in their business. Things like, time, obviously, getting repetitive tasks done, feeling like they couldn't be creative or grow their business financially because they were stuck on social media scheduling or trying to grow their email list. And it just, perhaps they were, a designer or they hosted workshops and all that kind of stuff was taking them time. And then there was another evening I went into the living room and I said to Chris, my husband, I think I'm going to be a virtual assistant. And he said, what's that? And I told him, because as I said, I'd been doing loads of research. I said, I'm going to set up a company that supports not just women, but busy parents and busy business people who are running their own gigs, but who need some kind of office support, but they don't have an office because they work, from wherever, from their kitchen table, from the train, whatever. And he was like, oh, it's not a bad idea. And my husband's an engineer, and he's very creative, but he's also, if he thinks something's stupid, he would have told me. And the fact that he went, oh yeah, sounds all right, it made me feel like, oh, this might have legs if he doesn't think this is bonkers. Now I've said it aloud, I've kind of cemented it. Does that make sense? Like his validation.
Well, it makes it real, doesn't it? It makes it kind of like, because I think, this happens so much in my coaching sessions where people leave at the end and they go, oh, it feels so good to say that out loud to somebody. And one thing that I find is, but you've been sitting on this idea for 18 months waiting for the perfect time, but they've still not told anyone because there's a vulnerability to it of actually saying something out loud like, oh my goodness, you could judge me for this, or say, who do you think you are to do this, this and this? Or have questions that you don't have the answers for.
It's so true. So then it became a bit of an idea, and I got a piece of I put the kids to bed because I only had that time from like 7 till 8:30 when I need to go to bed, then I can possibly think without
7 till 7:20, and then one of the buggers wakes up.
Yeah, and I grabbed a really scrappy piece of A3 plain paper, and I just did a mind map of everything that I thought I could possibly offer as a virtual assistant, and things that I thought I could do well and that I wanted to do, because a virtual assistant covers so many things, and there are so many types of VAs. And everyone specialises in different things, which I think is ace. But I wanted to be clear what I could do and what I wanted to do. So I did that. And then from that, I kind of highlighted and I wrote down what I needed to do to make this happen. And the first thing was I wanted to think of a name, and that came to me in the bath, as all great things do. And I just kept thinking to myself, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? What am I actually trying to achieve here? Like, what do I want people to associate with the service that I provide? Because I knew it was a busy market. And I thought, I just want them to have a clear desk by the end of their working week.
Yes.
And I'm like, that is it. And that has just been it ever since. I said it, and then that was it. It's like, boom, great, done.
That's
was
a really lovely point, though, because I think sometimes, like, I'm pushing with clients going, yeah, but how do you want your clients to feel? Or what is the end result? And people go, I just want to feel empowered. And it's like, but that's really hard to quantify or know
and to convey.
Yes, exactly. And I see so many coaches out there sort of standing on the edges of mountain, doing all of that. But I think you have to know your target
It's too big.
market.
That's too big for people to buy into.
Yes.
And I think I've had quick success because I am very clear, and I'm sorry about using the word, I'm very clear on what I can help people to achieve.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not a VA who offers everything. Like, for example, finance and that kind of data-y types, that is not my bag.
Yeah.
And I guess when I'm on a sales call, I really do focus on the value, I guess, because that's what people want from a VA. If people want a VA, it's because they've gotten to a point in their business where they're probably feeling the overwhelm. They're probably feeling there's too much noise and they need to be lifted. And I felt that the name, that kind of matched it. So I've never deviated from the name. There was never, people have said to me, oh, what were your other choices? Was there anything else you'd recommend? I was like, no, there was nothing. That was it.
And why do you think that people are hesitant to unleash the reins to other people? Because I know so often as women, it's like, no, we can do it all. We're fine. I'm in control of this. Like, I should be able to do that. Why do you think sometimes it takes people a bit of time to almost get to that burnout point before they actually ask for help?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I think a lot of it either comes from denial, and also the thing of, I can do this, I should be able to do this. And that thing of people associate owning a business as wearing many hats. So I think it's got that kind of old-fashioned connotation. But also I think there is a massive fear, because when you've grown something from scratch yourself, to hand over the reins of your email password, your social media account details, your goals, your financial goals, to say those to somebody else and say, look, I need you to do this portion to help me to achieve these things, it's really scary because yes, well, firstly, it's a financial investment. And I think often people feel so overwhelmed or bogged down by stuff because they wait until they think they're at that ideal place to make a financial investment in outsourcing. And often the best time to outsource is when you are almost at that next thing, but you need something that's going to allow you to get there. So I think a lot of people, it's a financial fear, but it's also quite an emotional thing, because your business is such a massive part of your life. Almost like people say business baby, which I think sounds a bit twee, but you know what I mean. It's your thing. And to allow somebody else in, it demands a lot of trust. You need to be able to give a little bit away, I suppose. And then I always say to clients, when you see the value of something, then we can move on to something else. Because people will say to me, I need support with these 6, 7, 8 areas. And I'll say, okay, so let's hone in on what is the first thing that if that is alleviated from your to-do list, from your mind, if I take that out and I do that, what's that going to allow you to do?
Drink.
And wine. And when I love it.
Sleep.
And yeah, totally. Exactly. Like, and they say crazy stuff. Nobody ever says, oh, I'll hit my 5K month.
Yeah.
Or my sales will increase by 50%. Nobody says that. What people say is, I might be able to have a manicure, or maybe I could go on a date with my husband, because actually it's a really emotional thing.
Yeah.
I think time in business is huge. And I know people go, oh, I haven't got the time, or I'm busy. But when you outsource to somebody like me, or a VA or an accountant or whatever that might, a social media manager, whatever it is, you are giving yourself that gift of time, and you don't have to then spend that time at your computer doing the next thing. You might want to do that, but you can do it you can use that gain time in a creative way to make you feel better. And I think if you can invest in that, then the money doesn't seem quite so scary.
Yes, absolutely. And I was just thinking as well that sense of peeling back the layers to what you're doing. Like, my partner always talks about like how messy my desktop is, because he's like, why have you not got that in folders? And it's really irritating, I have to say, because it's like, I've not asked for this opinion, what are you doing?
I know where everything is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's that, I mean, I remember I had it when I had Oscar, that suddenly people were in my under my sink, and they were like, oh, why do you put your tea towels there? Or some eager member of my family went, just to let you know, I've sorted out your mug cupboard. I'm like, why? I don't want, like, my mug cupboard is beautiful, like, this
Doesn't
is where
need
I
sorting.
have my tea, this is the thing. And I think sometimes we sort of are not quite ready to step into our power. That sounds trite, but like, kind of go, this is the way that I like to work. And almost we have to have everything being Instagrammable and ready, otherwise we open ourselves up to judgment of people going, wow, how have you got by to this point? It can be an embarrassment to ask for help, maybe.
Definitely, yeah. I see that a lot. People will often preface a message or an email to me with a task on, saying, oh, I'm really sorry, just ignore this bit, but, or I know you'll think this is da-da-da, but. I'm like, well, no, I won't think any of those things. What I'll think is, brilliant, this is what I can, let me do that. I can do this in this way. I'll just reply, I'll send you a proof by 2:30.
Yeah.
Which is what they need to hear. And as your relationship goes on, like, I've been working with some clients now for 9 months, that disappears. And I'd like to think, I hope that's because they feel the benefit and the value of it, I guess.
And that lovely trust that you have together of like, oh, actually, she's there for me, not to like make it about her. Like, oh, really? Why are you doing it like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, luckily, I've never had that reaction. So I hope nobody's ever thought that. But I guess in the early days, it is that fear. I've got one client who would pay me for like 1 hour a month, just an ad hoc hour. And from June, I'd stopped doing ad hoc hours because I'm at capacity. I needed to kind of take the reins, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Because I work flexibly around my daughters, and I was thinking, hang on, this is getting too big, too much, too many hours. I don't need this. So I pulled that in, and she said, it's so funny that you've done that, because I've been thinking about increasing my hours each month, but I was waiting until I got to X amount of revenue in my shop. And she's like, I realized that the only way I'm going to get there is if I do this, because, and since she's done that, since we've been on a monthly retainer, she's hit that goal.
Amazing.
And obviously that is not the only reason she's done that. She's got a brilliant business, and she's a great business, all of the other stuff. But she allowed herself to outsource before she felt she was quite ready.
Yes.
And that is scary. And I've got to a point now where I outsource to an associate because I need support with my business admin. The irony is I've got to a point where I need the service that I provide.
Yes.
So there's been a really valuable experience for me to almost go through what my clients go through when they outsource to me.
And really understanding what that process looks like. You're so right that you have to go through it. And I remember, I've told this story on the podcast before, but like this sense of I remember talking to this coach, and he was like,
Yeah.
"What time did your kid get up?" I was like, "About 5 a.m." And he was like, "Okay, you need to get up at 4, smash through some stuff before." And I was like, "Oh, I can't get up at 4. Like we're awake most of the night." And it is that sense of just having some understanding that people get you, and they know where you're coming from, and they've sort of been through that process as well. You speak really like strategically about putting it down on paper. Did you have to do any mindset work around that of all the old stories of who am I to set up a business, like will this work, or where or did you kind of bypass that and it was all fine and groovy?
I did to a certain extent. It's really funny. I feel like, not to sound too woo-woo or bonkers, but I have a real strong sense about my business, and when I'm working and when I talk about it, I feel really secure. So to put it out there to people I didn't know, I was excited, I guess, when I started. The thing I felt a bit like, it's a bit awkward, was creating a Facebook page. Because, on Facebook you have like your friends and people you went to school with, all that.
Yes.
That was the bit I felt
all
a bit
the ex-boyfriends lurking.
Yeah. I'm like, what are people going to think? But the people who mattered were lovely, and I haven't had time to think about anybody else.
No.
To be honest, but I do remember I felt it was like, cringing a little bit. But I soon got over that. Yeah. But I did feel that to start with, but
I think it's like whenever you go live or press publish on anything that you're like, I remember the first time I released a podcast episode, like I almost had to look away from my computer as I pressed and I was like, oh gosh, oh no, it feels so real that it's now like got to go live and got to get out there and but yeah,
I think that just makes you human.
Yes, well, exactly. So what worked really well in terms of getting things off the ground and landing your first client and all of that sort of stuff?
So I did spend a good 3 months doing a lot of research and setting stuff up in the background. Like I had a website like ready to go. I didn't spend, like forever on it and just about to press publish, but I set up my website, really simple website, and an Instagram and a Facebook account. And then I used Canva to design my logo. I did everything really simply. And I just started posting on social media, really basic stuff. Gosh, if I scroll down to the bottom, things like, do you want to feel da-da-da, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I directed people to my website where I had a really basic contact form. And my first client found me through there. And then my second client, somebody mentioned me on a post, but I basically just started marketing myself from a place of experience, which I didn't really have, I suppose, because I didn't have that client. But I was very honest that I'm so excited to be launching my new business. I came from it with a lot of energy because I was really excited about it. And then when I got my first client, I was like, oh. So
I'm going to retire.
I know, I'm done. I started in September, and the reality of this is our eldest daughter was at preschool, and we could only afford to send her to preschool because I had no income initially, 2 days a week. And Chris and I said, right, we're going to invest in 2 days a week childcare for both girls from up to Christmas. From September to Christmas, because we can afford to trial this, and if it doesn't work, then at least you gave it a go, right?
Yeah, nice.
So that's what we did, because I couldn't do it. I was shattered by the evening with the kids, and then I wasn't giving it exactly. So those 2 days to start with, I didn't have any clients, so I just schedule loads of content. I do loads of reading, and I quite quickly got 3 clients. And then by the 1st of December, we increased the childcare to 3 days because things were getting busy quite quickly. And then by Feb, I was up to 4 days, and that's what I do now.
Wow. And how did that feel to have that recognition of like, oh my goodness, this is working.
To be honest, like it felt and still feels incredible, like pinch myself. Like I'm so proud of my daughters, but the feelings are very, very different. This is something that I have done on very little sleep, completely by myself, completely for myself, and it's definitely one of my biggest achievements. So every time somebody fills in a contact form or sends me an email or a DM on Instagram and reaches out just to say that they'd like to find out how it works. That's what people often say. How does it work working with you?
Yes.
It's such a great buzz. Yeah, I love it. It's brilliant.
Oh, amazing. And when you set yourself up for the day, what really helps you, because you're there in a supporting capacity, what works for you in terms of topping yourself up so you can deliver and hold that space for your clients and do what you need to do?
So what I do is, the reason I went up to 4 days was because I was feeling almost getting to that overwhelm towards February. Like I'd do the hour round trip to 2 places to drop the girls off. I'd come home, I'd work flat out for 5 hours, then I'd do the hour round trip, tea time, bath time, bedtime, done.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, okay, this is too much. So I took on a Monday, which was the 4th day, to be a CEO day, which is where I'd, go through my emails, I'd get myself organised, I do now have a few client meetings and I do a little bit on a Monday. If I've got a deadline, I'm not strict going, no, I can't possibly look at that until tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that Monday gives me a bit of flexibility. The next thing I did was I joined a gym, which I used to do exercise before I had the girls, and then I just stopped, because I didn't fit it in. And I was feeling like I wanted to start exercising again, and I knew that it would help me with work as well. So I've joined a spa hotel gym, which is probably more than I would have paid for before I had the girls. But I know that by paying that bit more for something really nice, it makes me go. So I go there and I can work from there. So I'll swim and I'll go to the gym. So that really helps. I also go to a beginner's adult ballet class on a Friday afternoon. Amazing. With a wonderful, just a lovely, lovely bunch of women. I hadn't done ballet since I was 7, and I've now done 2 adult ballet tests, which is great. And I'm going to do another one in December.
And ballet is hard as well.
Yeah, it's really hard, but it's so good because it's so far removed from every other aspect of my life.
Yes.
So I find it mentally, it's brilliant for me. I do, people say, oh, self-care and blah, blah, blah. But for me, it's having that little bit of time when I can do something that's going to give me a bit of energy, because the girls still don't sleep brilliantly. So I'm still waking up, 2-3 times in the night. And obviously when I've got 12 to 15 clients, everybody wants something at the same time. Yes. You do have to kind of chop and change. So, for example, yesterday, the last week of the month is always the busiest week for me. So yesterday I was like, right, I've got to get on. I'm like, no, I had a word with myself. No, you're going to the gym. Getting to your desk an hour later is not going to kill you.
Yes.
And people say you're so much more productive. I don't know if I was more productive, but my brain was clearer. Do you know what I mean? I had a kind of clarity rather than a fluster.
Well, before I got pregnant with this baby, I really got into running, and sometimes I would do really long runs because I built up to that, but sometimes even 20 minutes round the block, which when I first started running again, I was like, 20 minutes?
That's huge,
joking, this is ridiculous. Because I was doing that couch to 5K,
yeah,
and I would
once,
kind of get to 2 minutes. I'd be like, I can't breathe, I'm going to die, this is awful.
It's amazing how that goes though, isn't it?
Yeah, and I know that I'll be revisiting it next year and sort of getting back into it, hopefully. But I loved that space that it would provide for me, because sometimes I think the temptation can be just to go, right, I've got this window of time, I've got to do everything I've ever known in this time and not sit down and be productive. But actually, if I step back and I do something completely different, or sometimes I'll spend, before I go and pick Oscar up from nursery, I'll spend the last 20 minutes cooking or prepping a really good dinner, because that's a really nice switch off point for me of
Yeah.
like, right, and now I'm going to cook, and then it's organized, and then you just have to check in with your own rhythm rather than this like, and go, hustle hard, stepping back can be really useful as well.
I am not a hustler. I don't like that word. I am not. Yeah. And also I always come back to, if I'm burnt out and overwhelmed and I'm not, sitting down with my brain sharp, if you know what I mean, if I'm not switched on and ready to do this work to the best that I can, then I'm not providing the service that I advertise, I guess. And also, I'm not a good role model for my business.
No, or your girls either.
Absolutely. Like, if I'm feeling run down and shoddy, it just doesn't work, does it? My husband always says, happy wife, happy house. And it's so true. Like, if I'm run down and knackered, everybody is. The house is a tip, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Whereas if I feel that I can finish at 2:30, put the laundry on, get their pajamas out for after bath time, do all those little things that are going to set me up for an easier time, then I would do that.
I made a real decision in terms of organisation that I wanted working and being equal partners to be a thing that our kid just sort of recognised, so I made a kind of real choice of like doing all those little organisation things, of making it obvious where things were, because I never wanted to be with a client and then get a phone call going, where are the raisins? Or I can't find any pants for him. And it's just, it's those small things where, some people might be like with this baby, I've organised everything already. Like the baby could have come, I don't know, weeks ago. I mean, obviously we don't want the baby to.
Hopefully not, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But because it just, for me, was that sense of ownership of like, we're good to go, and I don't want that rush and that anxiety of doing everything last minute. It doesn't work well for me.
No, and I've always been like that. Since I was little, I've always been organised and punctual. I don't think I've ever been late for anything in my life. I'd probably come out in hives if I was late. Like, even as a teacher, I had everything prepped for all the lessons. I'd have everything minimized on my desktop, all the resources laid out. I'm just that sort of person, I suppose. And I guess that's why, talking about those, going back to the transferable skills that everyone says if you leave teaching, now I can see how those things help me in business.
Yes.
But I do think when you're starting out, everything is so open, to be able to narrow anything down can be really difficult. And I found that I needed the time initially to narrow things. Does that make sense?
Yes, because it's a different sort of, that reflective mind mapping is almost like a different bit of your brain that you use, as opposed to like, right, I'm in doing, let's go. Yeah.
And it's funny because I mean, in a nice way, I get a lot of DMs on Instagram from people who are starting out as a virtual assistant, or who are a VA, and perhaps they're having a quiet month or something, and they say, oh, how did you do such and such? And I always say, I just wrote everything down, and then I narrowed it into what I wanted to do and what I think I could do best. Because there is a tendency, particularly when you're starting out, you're in that thing where you're trying to get clients, trying to earn some money. If people said to me, could you cast your eye over my last 3 months' accounts? You could go, oh yeah, okay, and try and figure it out as you go along. But you'd be doing a crap job, and I would not. That would make me feel nervous, or anxious. So that you have to know what you can and can't do to be able to get on, I think. Like, if you want people to sign up or invest or purchase, you've got to be super clear about it.
Yeah.
And actually, with my current clients, like, I've got one client who I'd start off just, I say just, but entering, like, kind of data entry, I guess, on the back end of a website. From there, the progression of working together has been huge. And I think, I'd like to think we've both learnt from that, really. It's just that initial thing. If you're getting to the point where you're feeling overwhelmed, or the noise, or you're waking up in the middle of the night feeling like, Christ, I've got so much to do.
Yes.
then just give yourself 20, 30 minutes of reaching out and seeing what is out there.
And how would you, if you knew that it was time for you to expand or to bring people in, how, and now you're sort of on the other side of that, how could people best prepare for that process to, I guess, maximise that time with you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My advice is to write down everything that you do regularly in your business. If you've got a one-off project coming up and you know you need support for that, that's different. If you've got, we all know that feeling, that overwhelm of, oh gosh, so much to do. Make a list, like a mother list, and then kind of order it. What could somebody else do? That would be the first thing. The second thing I would do is to create a video, use like a free tool like Loom, of a process that you do regularly. You don't have to have your face on there. You don't have to talk. You can just take like a video of your screen, of your computer, something you do regularly, and then you've got that process nailed. So if you then say to a VA, I would like you to create such and such in Canva for me, this is how I did it last time. Or this is my CRM, I want you to send out my monthly invoices. Here's a link to a video that you can watch time and time again to see how I do it.
Nice.
And just pop those onto something simple, something free. You don't have to spend loads of money on this. Pop it onto a Trello board. You can be in control of that. You can add a VA. You can take them off in the, whatever you want to do. But nail down the processes for your regular tasks. Because for you to then maybe give somebody a creative task in the future, if you know that they can do the regular things well, then that allows you to build up trust in them, and it gives you a chance to feel the benefit of that time that you've gained.
Nice. Yeah, see, it makes so much sense.
Does it? I hope so. That's how I work. That's how I work with my clients. And, the great thing from a VA's point of view, if you've got something like a list of steps, or even better, a how-to video, you don't have to bother the client by asking them, oh God, I'm so sorry, I know I did this last month, could you show me step 6 again?
Yeah.
Yes. And even that is freeing the client up, because that's taken out of their head. They don't have to think about that anymore.
Yes, and all those thoughts and ideas swimming around your head, those are the things that actually drag you down. And I did a post sharing my desk from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I saw that this morning.
Just putting all these post-it notes, and it just looked like somebody had vomited all over my wall in fluorescent post-it notes.
Brilliant.
But that was just a way where I was like, I've got to get all of this out of my head. But the thing was, I then just didn't know how to categorize it or what to focus on first. And we can all, I gave this analogy of like, we can all be really busy and just keep studying all the bricks, but actually you don't know what the house or the building is that you're growing, and you kind of have to know that.
Totally. So. And start small as well. Don't go in offloading something that's actually a really big and important part of your sales strategy.
Can you just work with all my clients, please?
Yeah, totally. If you could be my brilliant.
If you could just be me, that would be great.
That would be lovely. Do some, social media scheduling, or invoicing is a brilliant one, or something simple, which might not sound simple to some people, I don't know, but just getting the back end of your website sorted out, or maybe on your CRM, you want to chase up any leads that perhaps you have never heard back from, the sort of things that you might be on your rainy day list, but once they're done, that could have a big impact. You might get clients going, oh God, yeah, actually, sorry, I never got around to getting back to you.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's you're not supposed to have to do it all yourself and do all of the things. And
absolutely not.
Do you know what? There's no prizes for going, guys, I'm the most tired in this house. I am the one who is most burnt out and not had any. Like, when I'm like that in my house, my 2 boys who I live with just look at me like, oh God, look at and they're not going, oh, how can we help? They're just like, she's just gone beyond.
She's gone too far.
So if people want to find out more about you and what you're all about, what's the best thing that they can do?
Thank you. So they can find me on social media, on Instagram or Facebook. I'm just at ClearDeskVA. And my website is www.cleardeskva.co.uk.
Amazing. And what are you excited about for this next 6 months coming up?
Thanks, Nikki. So I have launched a one-to-one consultancy day package, which is going really well at the moment, and I'm excited about that for the next 6 months. So the idea behind that came when one of my clients said to me on the phone one day, "Oh my God, I just wish you could come and sit next to me." And
bring me lunch.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, well, I can if you want. Maybe I could make that, think how that looked and stuff. So it's basically like a day's work where I am alongside my clients and I support them. So it could be that I sit down and I absolutely nail their inbox and their desktop. Or, for example, with one client, she launched an e-course, and I spent the day helping her film it and then setting it up in the back end of her website. So it's that kind of thing where perhaps having a virtual assistant, maybe for the odd day, you just need somebody who's there next to you. So I'm quite excited about that, because my clients are great and we're in contact a lot. But to actually go and see them do their thing, I love that, because I learn more, which is lovely. I get to know how I can help them more. But also, obviously, when you work from home, just having that one-to-one interaction is lovely.
Oh, I love doing my strategy days too, because you get that 360 vision of what is going on. So you're not making the calls based on, piecing together bits. You're doing, you can just really sort of get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah,
and it's
totally.
Lovely.
And I hope that by creating this kind of package, it will help people also who are not current clients or who might be thinking of outsourcing to a VA in the future, but they just kind of want to dip their toes in. I think there is a fear sometimes that you're signing away a massive direct debit for the rest of your life, and it just doesn't have to be like that. I have loads of clients who have 3 hours a month of support, which gets done what they need to get done, because they might work 2 days a week, but they're creating things, but they need that admin support in the background. I think that's an important point to say.
Yeah, and I think often there has to be a way where you actually look at it and you do the maths on paper and think about. I mean, I've spoken about this so often, is that I'd get so sucked in by people's marketing and go, gosh, yes, I think I should go on that retreat or do a course about SEO or invest with this person and it's like, hang on a minute, I'm just arsing away money here and this is a really ridiculous idea. But I was so enthusiastic about it that I felt like I had to learn everything. And these days I'm just much more discerning of going, actually, what do I need? And, when people go, oh, it's going to be great and there's going to be a Facebook community and daily calls and things. And sometimes I'm like, that just doesn't work with my life. Introvert. No, don't bother me.
Run away.
But you have to sort of question what those things look like and what you actually need. And sometimes I've invested in something and then gone, hang about, I'm not getting a return from this, or actually this piece of technology really irritates me and I'm not using it, so why am I paying for it? And then sometimes working with a one-on-one person, it's just way easier and you get a greater return.
Totally. Yeah. And also, it doesn't have to be forever. You have a contract in place for a reason. If you work with somebody and you just don't quite gel or it's not working, if you've already set out your processes, then you can work with somebody else, and it's not that you've got to start the whole thing again, because you've got so far. You're kind of getting used to working with somebody. It might just not be the right person for you.
Totally. You don't have to marry them.
Exactly.
or you might end up.
I love it. That's why we're virtual.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh my goodness, people who have virtual partners. Wow, that's you hear about all these people I'm in prison, but we're together for 27 years. You're like, wow. Anyway,
that's a perfect marriage in some ways, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, exactly. He hardly.
So my husband will never listen to this.
Watch my telly. Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much. If anybody's got any questions, please tag us or let us know what you're maybe looking to outsource in your business, what you need help with, and things like that. And I know that you sort of share content and things so we can point people in the direction of that as
Thank you, Nikki.
But thank you so much. I've loved chatting, and now I'm going to go
too.
mind map.
I love it. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.